Welcome to Eden Equips, the podcast that shares real stories, practical tools to help parents, carers, educators feel equipped on their journey of raising and supporting neurodivergent children and young people. So, whether you are tuning in with a coffee in hand, you're in the car, or you have a precious little downtime quiet moment, I'm really glad you're here. And today we are joined by Amy. And Amy and I were first introduced to each other when Amy spoke on our panel for an event that we did to showcase a film that I've been part of around autism and mental health. We were, and I mean this so genuinely, we were inundated with responses from people hearing Amy share her story as an autistic woman herself. Since then, bless Amy, gets roped into so many things with us now. She was on our panel at the conference, at our first conference last year, an absolute crowd favourite, and I know so many of you will be excited that Amy is with us today and on our podcast. So hello, Amy.
Hi, thank you.
No, thanks so much for coming. And I really do feel like that. I feel like anything I'm doing now, I'm like, Amy. I'm like, where is it? You probably see me at my email coming through being like, what does she want now? But I really appreciate it. And it is genuinely because your voice is so important. And I really hope that you feel that and can see that. And your story is, and the way in which you share it as well. That was such a big feedback that we had as well. Your story is really important to so many people, and for many to hear as a neurodivergent individual yourself, as a mum. And a great place to start, I guess, would be to ask about your own journey as an autistic woman, and can you share with that what that is like in your own understanding and on the journey? Such a big question, isn't it? You're like, yes. Where do I begin?
I suppose my journey really started in the formal sense of the transition between primary school and secondary school.
Okay.
So it was at that point that the cracks started to show, and I think that's a very common experience, and certainly a lot of parents would say that as well.
Yes.
It's the demands become a lot more in secondary school.
Yeah, it's huge actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
From primary, you got one teacher sit beside the same kid maybe for like 7 years, like genuinely. Yeah. And then secondary school, it's like, hey, you have to move around constantly all day. There's different teachers. It's a big transition. You're
definitely
right.
So I had become involved with CAMS. There was a referral made for CAMS. My mental health started to dip. And I wasn't one who enjoyed CAMS, to be honest. I haven't heard a lot of people who do.
Neither myself, no.
Yes,
no.
It's quite it feels like quite a rigid system to work through.
Right.
But it was through that I then had the referral for the autism diagnosis.
Okay, yeah.
So at that point, I was kind of just before GCSE years, jumped through all the hoops to get there, which there are many.
Yeah.
And so the diagnostic process took about a year. But I think for me, it kind of felt, especially at that age where you don't have a whole lot of insight, it felt like I was only really going for the referral because my behaviours or mental health was becoming difficult for other people. So my school attendance had dropped significantly. Yeah. There was education welfare officer involvement,
right?
All that kind of blueprint that you hear so many people going through. So once it became an issue for the school, then they were like, oh, well, maybe she would benefit from this referral. So going through that process was very interesting. I think I kind of had a slight inkling that there was perhaps autism diagnosis. I could identify with a lot of the criteria that they go through, but everything just felt so awkward at that age, I think.
Okay.
And I knew I was different. I knew I didn't really fit in. School was just unbearable.
Oh, yeah.
But I couldn't really figure out why.
Yeah.
It was because I was so academically up there. I excelled in everything I did. I won awards for the school, but I was only maybe there by the end of my school journey, it was less than 50% attendance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I went on then to the second year of GCSE. I just hit autistic burnout, and I still hadn't got the diagnosis, so the school were quite limited in the support they could offer.
Okay.
But I was very astute and very self-aware, and like, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to achieve. At that age, I really wanted to get into Cambridge. So I was like, well, I can still do this. You know, I don't need the teachers or the system. So we homeschooled then through the second year of GCSE. Still technically enrolled in school, but didn't really go in. And so went in for the exams and did very, very well. But that was the only way I could cope. I couldn't cope with the social aspect of school, the noisy corridors, all of that. It was just too much.
And I wonder, like, there's so much that's been said there that I'm like, oh, okay, like, wow, you know. First of all, that thing of like nearly, it breaks my heart nearly even, because it's a reality for so many people, that it's not, the support isn't offered until it becomes a problem for the setting.
Yeah.
Oof, like even saying it like that, I'm like, wow, okay. So, you know, that actually until, for example, like we see that a lot with autistic girls as well, but with a lot of young people at the minute, the attendance drops. And then settings go, oh, is there something going on here? Like, or oh wait, this is affecting our stats.
Yeah,
you know, and I know that's not all schools. I know I never say that like full generally. There are some schools who are incredibly supportive, really on board with this at the minute as well. But more often than not, unfortunately, so the realization is until it becomes an issue, I then all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, is there something happening here that I need to support with? Yeah. And even you saying to me as well, I still at that point hadn't got the autism diagnosis, so services or support was very limited for me. And that's heartbreaking, isn't it? Like, that we don't just then see young people as a young person who needs help.
Yeah, I think now, I mean, as an adult with autism, but even looking at when my son was diagnosed when he was 5, there are so many opportunities to intervene. And for me to go the whole way through the education system to hit breaking point, where it was really too late. I had gone too far, I think, at that point. Yeah.
It's crisis intervention. In those moments, isn't it?
It was just kind of beyond the pale.
Yeah.
So things had to take a different direction.
Okay.
So I attempted to homeschool A-levels, then not associated with a school, and just was still very deteriorous mental health, real struggle. And from there, didn't do the A-levels. But once I was had went through a process of understanding myself more, went on to do the Open University. And I think, especially, so my high school was a grammar school, and it's very much, you go A, B, C, D, and you go through the alphabet, and then you've achieved the thing.
Yes, well done. Congratulations. You're an adult.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
So it's like one track. And I think something else I've noticed and realized going through that journey, and also watching a lot of others, you know, through my diagnosis, I've met a lot more people with autism, with neurodivergence, and seeing the different options that are available. There's so much more that you don't see as a child in that position with the full weight of these exams on you, or even as a parent.
You're so right.
With this kid at breaking point, like, what are you going to do here? There's no other option. They have to get these GCSEs. That's the only option. When it's really not. There's so much more out there.
There's a lot more out there, isn't there? And yet you're totally right that is so, we're so bound by that in so many ways. And I think really good what you just said there, as a young person in it, that's what you're told.
Yeah.
These are the most important years of your life. If you don't get this, you can't get anywhere. And the pressure that puts on young people in general. Yeah. But then also actually, like, it's a false narrative, because, and I think actually we see that so much more in schools now, of young people being like, well, I'm going to be a YouTuber, or I'm going to be this or that. And actually educationers being flummoxed by it a wee bit, because they're like, oh, well, that isn't. And I think especially, as you said, in grammar school, doctor, teacher, lawyer.
Yeah.
So sorry, that doesn't fit into the magic 3.
Yeah.
So actually we're not sure how to support you or encourage you in those paths. Like sitting here doing what I'm doing today, that was never presented to me in school, being like, here's how you could run your own business in something that you love, you know, and something you're passionate about. Yeah. And as you said, then that really limits. And it can be quite scary for young people then to feel that sense of,
I wonder if like it feels, a cliff edge.
Yes. And then like that's actually terrifying.
Yeah.
Here's the edge of the cliff. You can learn how to fly, or you're falling to those rocks. And no wonder then, as you've shared yourself, mental health becomes part of that story.
Yeah. And I think with autism as well, you have that black and white thinking element, which just...
really important to note.
Yeah. It just really takes it up a notch as well.
Correct.
Because it's like, there's this or there's nothing. You know, there's success or there's failure, no job, no money, no house, homelessness. Like that. Yeah. That's the alternative.
Yes, yeah. You're like, you know, here's where I get
flow
to.
Chart of consequence.
And I'm even reflecting on a young person, and obviously I'll change bits of the story, but like that I had the privilege of teaching, and her story really similar in that, ended up with us in specialist setting after kind of crisis point.
Yeah.
And that was what she used to always say to me, well, what's the point in trying, because I'm autistic, so I'm going to end up homeless with no job anyway. And I'm like, whoa, you've really gone to, but as you said, it's a literal thinking. Here's what I've been told. Why am I not believing it? Whereas other people being like, sure enough, you know, like nearly gently, maybe harshly challenge it at times too. But that must feel like so terrifying in that moment. And I'm sure then for, as you said, for your mental health journey, what that looks like.
Yeah, it was perilous. So I got the diagnosis, and it did help me a lot to contextualize a lot of the struggle.
All right.
And it was kind of, you know,
it's really good to hear.
I had spent so many years thinking, I don't fit. Why don't I fit? You know, there's something wrong. And I'm very mathematically minded. I'm like, well, there's, you know, this doesn't add up. There's like part of the equation missing. Yeah. So it did help me to understand myself and to see like, I'm not this broken person. All of these traits that I have can fit into this blueprint of the wide umbrella of what is autism. And each one of those can have, you know, you can look at them individually and wrestle with it and figure out, okay, well, I can do this, or here's another option, I can overcome it this way, or I can use it, you know, in terms of very logical thinking, now doing a degree in physics and math. And, you know, that's
incredible.
I love that. That really mentally gets me going. Like just the challenge. I love wrestling with those kind of things when they make sense.
Yes.
It's the logic of it, you know. But yeah.
So necessary.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. And I think I love hearing that in terms of like, so first of all, and I think that brings up an interesting conversation in terms of like, we've had it on other podcasts with a few other people of like the importance of identification, to be able to exactly what you just described as your own personal experience. There was a piece of the equation that was missing. And then when it came, you're like, right, well, there's that piece that now I can find what these bits are going to together. And I'm sure you see that even in your own journey as a mum, like how beautiful and important it is for young, you know, because you talk about that in your stage that you're like, it was late, like it was nearly way too late actually, you know. And at those points when people are like, hey, well, what about we put this in place? And you're like, listen, we've got to go way back here and really like heal actually to move forward. And for other young people, I'm sure you see, like, do you see the hope in that of like, you're like early helping understand your brain, like as early as you can to be able to like support yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, when my son was diagnosed, I really pushed for the diagnosis because I could see the signs and I knew what I was looking for.
Right.
We frame it very differently at home. So
touch me
whenever he had his diagnosis, we had an autism party. So we had like you have autism on a cake, and he was so excited. And
I'm immediately emotional.
We explained it in terms of all the positive attributes, but also, you know, you might find this a bit more difficult, but we had
celebrated.
Yeah. So we had myself, my cousin has a diagnosis, and we were all around, and we were part of a tribe. You know, we had belonging in that, which was lovely. Oh. And so he sees his autism superpowers. He's like, you know, so advanced in his numeracy skills as well. Yeah. But I have been able to equip myself through my journey to be able to go to his teachers and say, look, this is what he needs. This isn't an optional thing. Yep. I know what he needs. Yep. Yep. And I know it so strongly from what I didn't get through that educational setting. Right. And it's really given me a lot more. I'm quite a reserved person, but it's given me a bit of fire in my stomach to really, you know, fight on his behalf.
Advocate fiercely for him. Yes. And I think that's something to encourage other parents and carers with. Yeah. What I heard there, really important, you saying, I knew that's exactly what he needed because I know him. Yeah. And parents and carers know their child the best. Yeah. No matter how specialist that professional is, they do not know that child. Yeah. In the same way that a parent or carer knows that child or young person. So you saying in that moment, because I fought for it because I knew him, I knew what was happening there, and I knew what was going on. And then for you to advocate in schools and be able to go in and say, he needs this. And it's not just because it'll make him feel a bit better. It's like for his brain to feel safe and access. And I love hearing that it set a fire in you a bit, you know, of being like, no, I'm fiercely going to fight
Yeah.
because I know what he deserves. Like,
Yeah.
can I ask, and just even, you can make it really general. What are some of those things that you, even, not even necessarily for your son, because that's very personal, but like for young people in general in a school setting that you're like, this will really help?
I think what makes it more complex is every teacher is very different. And some years you just feel like you're hitting against a brick wall, and then you change to the next primary or the next
Yes.
the next year group, and it's like a
breathe.
completely different person. So getting on board with the school Senko preemptively,
Okay.
not retrospectively,
Oh,
I
okay.
think is something huge for parents.
Preemptively, not retrospectively. So I'm contacting ahead of time. I'm
Yeah.
asking to meet.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for there to be a crisis point or a big meltdown in school. And then I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, like,
Yeah, and the
okay.
other thing is for parents to know you don't have, even if you're not even yet on the waiting list, you don't have to have the diagnosis for the school to step in with support.
So
In
good,
terms
Amy.
of pupil
Yeah.
learning plan and
Yes.
all that comes with
Correct.
that.
Yep.
You can
Really
start
good,
that
Amy.
from word go, and then because the processes are so long now,
So
years
long.
and years on waiting
Yes.
lists.
And that's exactly it. And we always encourage parents with that and staff when we're training. You can support this young person now. You do not have to wait for a bit of paper to come through
Yes.
or an email to come through for then you'd be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to get on board and support. It's like, no, that young person is showing you they need something. Let's just provide it,
Yeah.
you know, and be able to practically provide that. I mean, there's so many questions in my head here that I really, really, really want to go into. What would you say if you were trying to encourage somebody on a similar journey? Maybe they're an autistic adult or querying that, or they're a parent. What's your kind of words of encouragement through that?
It's a big question.
It is. You're like, how long do I have?
I think from the parent side of things, it can feel very isolating.
Yeah.
You know, you've all these kids in the class going about things that maybe isn't accessible for your child, and that can be really difficult.
Okay.
And for the parents, I would say you need to find a community, you know, joining different clubs or different things, even whenever the kids are joining the club for neurodiversity. I know there's football groups, there's chess clubs, there's all different things going on, swimming groups as well.
Yeah.
That those parents
Join it as a parent too.
are on those stepping stones along with you, going through those processes, and they are arduous. It's a long battle.
It is, and it's exhausting.
Yeah,
You know,
and you need someone. Whenever you feel like you're falling down, you need the hands of others to lift you up.
Beautiful.
And to be that for other people in that circumstance as well.
Because everyone's at a different point in their journey.
Yes.
I see that a lot when I have the privilege of standing in those spaces with parents. And my favourite moments of training is when a parent turns around to another parent mid-training. We're having those conversations and a parent feels hopeless. And they say, I remember being where you were.
Yeah.
You will get through this. Here's some 3 things that really helped me. And here's where we are now on the journey. Because they're maybe now raising a 15-year-old, you know, and they remember what it was like when that kid was 10.
Yeah.
And they were, you know, and you're so right, creating that sense of community. And that's kind of what we talked about at the conference a bit, that belonging, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That sense of belonging. When, for you and kind of like coming into land with that, has there been a time that you can reflect on that you feel like you've truly belonged?
Yes, I feel whenever I was first diagnosed, I was diagnosed when I was 17 and a half. So it was kind of stated quite bluntly to me, you have 6 months to get as much out of this service as possible, and then you're aging out. So
Yeah.
I kind of was in all of the groups, like everything that they offered, I was there.
Yeah.
And that was the first time in my life where I was in a room, everyone had autism or was an expert in autism, the facilitators.
Right.
And I could fully unmask and relax. And I knew that if it was too much and I had to step outside, no one's going, oh, what's going on with her? You know, it was just
Love that.
all those behaviors that you have to suppress in everyday life are suddenly acceptable. And it was so striking that I hadn't actually realized how much I was masking up until that point, because that was the first time you could drop that mask. And that was, for me,
Really freeing.
the first experience of belonging in that way, in that context. But it also gave me so much insight that I could bring beyond that context as well.
So good, Amy. That's beautiful. And actually, I think important for everyone listening, create an environment where autistic individuals can feel authentically autistic and unmask, and that there is that space and acknowledgement that that I think just even like those things you're saying in my brain, I'm like, but like, why are we questioning that so much? Why are we not making accessibility in terms of in schools that people aren't like, why are they doing that? You know, and I have that question quite a lot, that people will be like, I know, but if I do it for that kid, other kids are going to, and I say, I think what we're doing is undervaluing the other children in the classroom to create acceptance for them, to say, do you know what?
Yeah.
Little Johnny's brain needs a little bit of wobble while he sits, and that's why he sits in that. And I know that ball looks so fun. You know, you can maybe try it afterwards, but for Johnny right now, he needs that for his brain. And young people do accept it, but sometimes we're like, oh no, we can't. We're not going to draw attention. We're not going to say anything. We're not going to admit that actually some people need a wee bit of time to do this, or like actually how every single brain works so differently, but like creating that beautiful neuroaffirming practice.
Yes, and it benefits everyone.
Everybody.
And even in an adult context, I consulted to work on like a unit for mental health, and they wanted it to be like an autism informed space.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
And there was someone else going through trauma informed spaces, and it was really the same stuff. You know, what you're creating, yes, it's a huge benefit to people with neurodiversity who find it really hard in those settings, but it's also benefiting other people.
Yeah, useful for all. We love that. Thank you, Amy. We'll finish with our quick equip. Ready? So, one tool or resource that you love.
So for me, you can find it on like Google Images. It's called the Circle of Emotions. Okay. So I find it very difficult. Sometimes I know that I'm feeling something. I can feel it in my body. There's a strong feeling, but I can't identify it. And this has like 3 increasing size circles. And it starts with like 6 basic emotions. And then each one of those divides into 3 and gets more specific as you go through. Cool. And once I can identify the emotion, then I know how to deal with it, you know.
Support that emotion.
Express it, or I need this, or I need some downtime, or but being able to just name it, because that's something with my autism I struggle with a lot. And I think I've showed it to quite a few people, even neurotypical people, and they're like, oh, because it just really gives helps. So much language to those really complex emotions.
The circle of emotions.
Yes.
Cool. We will link that in to this as well, to this episode. Okay. One mindset that helps you?
I think being open-minded. I think not using the diagnosis as like a parameter that I must exist within. Like, I can't do that because I'm autistic.
So good, Amy. Yeah.
You know, it's yes, it's got difficulties and weaknesses, but it has so many strengths. And going into situations thinking I'm going to be on the back foot here, trying not to do that or not let that be the default. But, you know, saying, actually, I have this going on, and that could be really useful in this situation, you know, whatever it might be.
And just even as you shared, like the way that you learnt to like love, respect and honor your brain, and then be like, my brain loves logical situations. Like, let me go into that space. And actually how then, you're right, that walking into things and not being like, oh, starting yourself like nearly 10 paces behind. Yeah. When actually a lot of those times it'll be 10 paces in front. Yeah. But not limiting yourself to those thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant, Amy. That's really good. One piece of advice you would share with others?
I think give yourself a bit of grace. You know, we're all trying to figure ourselves out, and, you know, our reactions to things, and everyone's on that journey. But I think in particular with those with neurodivergence, you know, you might not react the typical way or express in the typical way. And it's about realizing that and understanding that within yourself. And once you have that understanding, then asserting that, oh, I need this space actually, or I need to take a few minutes here, or, you know, that understanding to be able to support yourself and advocate for yourself.
Yeah. So good. Amy, thank you so much. Like, honestly, it's been like, I feel like it's been like pearls of wisdom today. And thank you for taking time to articulate that and share that with everybody. That's us for today's episode. I really hope that you find some of this. I know actually that you'll have found this inspiring. That it sparked a new idea, or remind you, as Amy shared really beautifully, you're not alone on this journey, and the importance of creating that sense of belonging. But thank you, Amy, for coming. And I know it's not the last. You'll be here. You'll be getting another email from us. You'll be coming in. But thank you, and thank you for being so honest and sharing your story today.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.